that. So let's welcome Rajiv Malhotra ji. Rajiv ji, namaskar, Ram Ram. How are you, sir?
Namaskar, Ram Ram. I'm glad to talk to you always, and this is it's a good topic you called me to discuss, and let's get started.
Rajiv ji, I'm going to yield the floor to you, sir. This imminent invasion of United States through its campuses, it is started, in maybe high school when they had this CRT, critical race theory, and then now it is played in a big way, wokeism and what have you in the campuses. And what we are seeing now is white Caucasian American students born and being in US for generations suddenly not willing to understand what is happening on the ground, sir, in the sense that what happened on October 7th. And these people are just saying death to Israel. And this is just going out of control. Rajiv ji, are our best and brightest this dumb?
So you have to take a broad view. Let's step back and take a broad view. First of all, it's not just about Israel. It's also against the founding fathers of the United States. It's against the American flag. If somebody goes to a rally, one of these rallies, and just says nothing about Israel, but wants to put up the American flag, they bring it down and put the Palestinian flag. It's against American principles of free speech because they cancel you, they throw you out, they'll have all these loudspeakers. It's against this. It's against American ideals, and Israel is the latest vehicle to fight. And I'm predicting here, one day Kashmir will be an issue as big on all American campuses, European campuses. It'll come to India also, because they're looking for a flashpoint to galvanize, because every once in a while they need all kinds of excitement. Otherwise a kind of movement dies. A movement dies unless you feed it with enough masala once in a while. And this is the kind of explosion they need, you see. So this latest one, it was a great opportunity for these people to arouse their workers, their street fighters, their activists, and so on. One has to understand who are these people, why are they doing it, what does 5 or 6 billionaires, including Bill Gates, is into this, including some of the social media giants are into this, including George Soros and a bunch of other people are into this. Why are they into this? Why are the capitalists disrupting the free market system and capitalism, which is how they made their money? That's an important question that we addressed in our book, Snakes in the Ganga. Why do oligarchs, American and Western oligarchs, support those who are actually against capitalism, it seems? What's in it for them? And by the time we discuss, before we discuss Israel, it's not a localized issue about Gaza. That's just a latest pretext. Okay. When that is done with or solved in whatever way, maybe peace or whatever happens, if there ever that peace, they'll find another one that will be, Kurdistan issue or a Kashmir issue or something like that. Basically what you're talking about is this. To be very blunt, there is an axis, a coalition of the left and Islam. It is leftist Islam coalition. So you have to understand this. What's in it for each side? Well, after 9/11, the Islam was on the back foot. They were really in trouble. There were all these riots against Muslims in America, which is very sad. It shouldn't have happened. But there was a strategic plan with Middle East money and a lot of Americanized Muslims kind of coming together and saying, how do we work and all that? And the American left has always sided with Palestine. It's not pro-Islam per se. It wasn't until now. It was more like anti-Israel, Zionists, and they're occupying their colonizers, which is not the correct history anyway. So this pro-Palestine left wing, it was the vehicle that the Muslim countries used to get in the door into the US campuses, because leftists have always controlled the American campuses. We know that for a long time. And many of the think tanks and many of the media, like CNN and these kind of MSNB for sure. So the Muslims decided that to get respectability, to get into an intellectual circles, to have access to the students, they need the left, and the left was willing to do it with enough money and enough whatever else it took. So the Muslim side, Islamic forces benefited using the leftists as, you might say, useful idiots to help them in their cause. And this flip side is the leftists thought that they didn't have the street power. They had the brains. They were some of the very intelligent people. They are professors of history and political science and social sciences and all of that stuff. And certainly in areas like human rights, they're all leftist people. So they thought that the Muslims bring money and a particular concrete cause that everybody can go get on to, but they also bring a sort of ground forces because they're willing to fight, they're willing to get violent, they're willing to they are super organized. The mosques teach all this about we are victims and we ought to fight. So this is a mutual deal which each side thinks that they are benefiting from the other. But the question is, if they were to prevail and defeat their opponents, which is the rest of us, then they have to fight each other. Because Islam and leftist Marxism are incompatible. If you look at the women's movement, the feminist leftist movement, they are very silent on Muslim women having to wear hijabs and having to, all the restrictions on them. And they are not complaining about Islam as a patriarchy, which it is. So they're very quiet on that. Why are they quiet on it? Why this hypocrisy, you have to ask, So each side thinks that they will sort of look over the other side's problems, even though there's a conflict of ideology. If they were honest with each other, the liberals, the leftists, would not accept Islam's position on women, as one example. They would not accept Islam's position on all kinds of attitudes towards science and towards rationality and the dogma. The attitude towards kafirs, infidels. I mean, there's so many things you could talk about. So, but they don't want to, because it's a convenience. It's a partnership of convenience built on a bit of a hypocrisy. And similarly, the Muslims are very clever. They don't want to. They don't like LGBTQ. Islam does not like LGBTQ. So, if you want to create a rift between them, you bring in LGBTQ from the left. And the Muslims, even in the United States, even if you take them to mosques, in front of mosques, they are very concerned. They are really pissed off that this is something forbidden. One of the most intolerant towards, LGBTQ is the Muslim faith. So there are plenty of areas where one is totally incompatible with the other. That's what I'm saying. And yet they are together in this fight to disrupt world structures, disrupt nation states. United States happens to be where this American left is headquartered, and that's where this whole thing is happening. But do not think that countries like India are safe or absolved. I mean, people on the internet are just stupid when they think that, oh, this is an American problem. It's not. India has got a massive amount of Muslims. India has got deep roots of the leftist movement, which aren't going away because it's funded from the outside. It's sort of like saying, people telling me that, look, the Aryan invasion theory issue has been solved. It's been solved in the minds of our people, us, but it's been kept alive somewhere, and it's always going to be a place that will be fanned. Look at how the Khalistan movement has just suddenly revived. People thought that we won victory. The Sikhs are great. In India, nobody wants it. It's a few lunatics in Canada and UK and Australia and so on, and now even in US. But the thing is that this is kept alive. And when a cancer is still there, even though you've done some radiation therapy and chemotherapy and all of surgery to get rid of it in different places, as long as it's still there, it can come back. So this business of the left and Islam alliance is a solid threat to the world, including India. Probably, I would say, after the United States, the most vulnerable and likely places would be, besides France and England, it would be India. So do not think that the problem you and I are discussing is of just American consequences. America just happens to be the first battleground. Okay. Now, I also mentioned Khalistan and all that. So let me tell you that the same collaboration is where the Khalistanis are getting their power from. They are all over these kind of movements. Okay, they support each other. The ISI, which represents the radical Islam, trying to co-opt the Khalistanis, and the Khalistanis have other forces also helping them. So the Islamists show up at the Khalistani rallies, and Khalistanis show up at the Islamist rallies. The left is supporting both of them. And guess who? Dalits. So you have a coalition of blacks in this country. They are victims against whites, and they want to get the help of the leftists to overthrow that. You have the LGBTQ, who are against the straight people, and they want to overthrow that. And they also, the left helps them. You have the Muslims, who they want to be victims, play the victim card. You have the Khalistanis, you have the Dalits, etc. So this is Marxist ideology, which the left champions, is the ideological framework in which all this is being argued, and that's what's being taught to the children. So the children are being taught this kind of idea that okay, it's sustainability, and UN has these sustainability development goals, SDG 2030, which says by 2030 we'll have achieved certain goals for sustainability. But if you dig up under sustainability, which we're writing in the next book, we'll be writing all this. If you dig up under sustainability, sustainability also includes human rights. Okay, human rights brings in anti-racism. Okay, anti-racism then expands into not only supporting blacks and fighting racism, which I think is a good idea, but then it supports people like the Muslims claiming to be victims. Kind of, they are oppressed also by Israelis, and then the Khalistanis jump in, and then the Dalits jump in. So all kind of people, when they are able to say that they're wanting to fight against authority, against authoritative domineering structures, they say, which means nation states, democratic countries they want to overthrow, old established religions and faiths they want to overthrow. They have come together. That is what this wokeism is, a kind of an overall umbrella term for all this kind of a coalition of such people who want to play the victim card. What is happening on American campuses is just evidence of what we mentioned in our Snakes in the Ganga, and we're writing about it since 3-4 years, 5 years, that this is now not just a fringe movement on campuses. This is mainstream. It is becoming absolutely mainstream, and no one taking it seriously. I am so, I'm terribly upset at what's happening, but there's a side of me which says, look, I told you so. You didn't want to believe it. Now it's happening. Let me tell you what I mean by that. I have friends here who have funded Harvard. They funded a chair named after their family in Columbia. They funded this place, that place, and a lot of them very proud. There's one Chadda Center in Princeton. All these guys are so full of themselves because they have money, and they are so. And while I've been telling them all this about that, you know what you are funding is the fringe liberal leftist wing, extreme left you're funding, which has brought all these other people underneath it. Do you know that's what you're funding? They didn't want to face it. They would say things like, oh, you're a conspiracy theory guy, or not happening. When I go there, they're very nice guys. They meet me nicely. I said, yeah, because they're getting tens of millions of dollars from you. So, of course, they're going to treat you nicely. Okay. But actually what they're teaching in your name, in your family name, and with your money is the wrong stuff that you should know. Today, I'm getting calls from such people saying, come on, explain to us what is all this. So I'm saying, there's nothing new to explain. Just read my books, because we've talked about it for a very long time. So I would tell you that the only silver lining in this, it's an important silver lining, is that the Jewish billionaires have pushed back. Okay, shame on people like Mahindra and all that. They've pushed back against Harvard, they're pushing back against Columbia, they're pushing back against UPenn and Stanford, and they're saying, to hell with you guys, this is nonsense, we're not going to. But Hindus are thinking that they'll fight our fight also. I mean, okay, they're not going to. They need our help, and we should help others who are in trouble, and that's a good policy. But we have to fight our own fight, and our billionaires are not willing to step up the way the Jewish billionaires have. They're not willing to stick their neck out. They're not willing to become a little controversial, take a little risk. Why? Because they're ignorant. They're uninformed. They do not have the background to stand up and take a stand with courage. So this is, I know it's a long statement I've made, but I just wanted to set the framework right.
Thank you so much, Rajiv ji. I have 2 or 3 questions, and I'll just ask them, and then we'll go on to the next topic. First question is, You say that the left that controls this ecosystem, they're very smart, very brilliant individuals. But are they not looking at history? For example, the revolution in Iran was brought about by the lefts of Iran, and they were the ones who were instrumental in installing the mullahs. The first thing the mullahs did upon assuming power is to exterminate the left. They didn't even give them a chance. They were completely like a squash, they were exterminated. Aren't they understanding that the same thing could be happening in US also?
Yeah, and you know the same thing happened in Bangladesh when this Yahya Khan and all these guys, the Pakistanis, took over East Pakistan, made a military state out of it because Majubir Rahman had won. You know this guy,
Yeah.
the Bengali guy had won the national election. They didn't want him to become prime minister, so they clamped down. The genocide committed was against the intellectuals. They surrounded Dhaka University, took all the faculty, the professors, they brought in all the journalists and anybody who was an intellectual, they brought him in one place and killed them. They killed tens of thousands of people. This is recorded. Ted Kennedy went there in person and he saw this and he wrote a report. So the idea that wherever the Muslims have taken over, the clergy, the Muslim right wing have taken over, the idea that is good news for the left is completely stupid, and you are absolutely right. But people have not learned from that because each generation is manipulated. There's a reset in memory, and they are very good at raising the next generation in a self-fulfilling way. Some of the left people at the very top are sold out. They know the game and they bought into it, okay, but then their job is to then be the evangelist teaching the other people who are ignorant. The average kid on the street thinks that he's helping sustain the sustainability movement because while they have all these slogans, at the same time, along with the slogans that are anti-Israel, they also have slogans about save the world and save climate and fight racism and this thing and that thing. So it's a hodgepodge of causes that are all brought together. I would say more than 90% of the students don't know the details of what they are fighting for. It's just, there's also this effect, people like this mohal, this ambiance, this kind of pageantry, grand pageantry, that you're part of this mela. You're part of this, like a lot of people go to the Kumbh Mela, they are not into it for a spiritual reason. They don't even know what the hell it is. It's like a giant party and you just go for it because it's fun. It's fun. So for a lot of kids, it's sort of like a cool thing to do, to join the other kids. They're all talking about it. So you also want to be talking about it. It's this business of anti-authoritarianism. You're fighting against the old establishment. Anti-establishment is a cool thing for young people to do. So all of that energy has been properly understood by the left and by Islam, how to manage it, how to manipulate it, how to mobilize it for yourself. Our leaders have not understood this and not understood how to mobilize it. That's a shame.
Rajiv ji, you mentioned about Jewish billionaires pushing back hard. Bill Ackman comes to mind. In fact, he was probably one of the few who really stood up and made sure that there was some change in the leadership at Harvard as well as, I think, UPenn, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. But MIT has managed, and there's some change in MIT. They have basically dropped DEI for their new hires. Some of the new ads, they are not insisting on DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. And I'm also hearing that MIT is bringing back scholastic aptitude test as a primary means for determining admissions, which is a good thing. Why it was taken out, I have no idea. But
no, we know why it was taken out, because part of the whole woke movement is that meritocracy. I mean, I wrote a whole book called The Battle for IITs, which basically is the argument which shows that there's this whole anti-IIT movement coming from Harvard and other places from the left, which argues that meritocracy is actually something that perpetuates elitism. It perpetuates the oppressor, because these exams and the syllabus and the idea of merit is all, and the coaching schools, it's all something that the rich people, the elite people, they are the ones who can afford it, and they are the ones who control it. So the Dalits are not given a fair shot. So they want to bring down the whole meritocracy. This DEI is an anti-meritocracy. That DEI is basically that you don't want equal opportunities, you want equal outcomes. So, and this whole quota system that didn't allow Indians to get admitted to the Ivy Leagues like Harvard, which Supreme Court ruled is illegal, was also like a DEI system where people are, according to some quotas, they're brought in. So they knew what they were doing. It is not like they did not know why they did it. Removing SAT scores and removing scholastic tests for admission was done on purpose, so they could then say, okay, it'll be based on your essay, and you write some sad story about, you were raised in this way and you suffered that and whatnot, and you show a victim story, and then you get in. So this is kind of like getting away from academic excellence, getting away from meritocracy. And now this has gone down to the schools. If you look at school trends, academic trends in USA, in India, the academic excellence has gone down. The standards of math, reading, science, etc. are down from previous years. And falling compared to China, Japan, Korea, those kind of countries, and Scandinavian countries. So the focus has shifted in recent years away from academics towards all this political stuff and so forth. And this has happened in schools, it's happened in colleges. And now this pushback, I'm saying that's the silver lining, that there's a pushback starting with the Jewish billionaires. Hopefully some Indian billionaires will join in, but they haven't yet. Okay. By the way, one interesting thing I'll tell you. We criticize Mittal Institute at Harvard in a big way in our Snakes in the Ganga, along with Piramal and along with Mahindra and so on. So Mittal Institute, for the first time in over a decade, this year their India conference at Harvard did not have a single woke speaker. They did not have their normal people talking about how these Dalits are being persecuted and this minority people. None of that bullshit was there. They talked about India. The whole framing of India was done with science, space research, science, technology. So they took the safe route finally. So they brought in technocrats, and there were a lot of talks which didn't have the usual left-wing, anti-India, Hindu-phobic stuff. So things are happening in that direction, and I think we've had something to do with it.
Thank you, sir. And now let's take a look at your good friend, Sam Pitroda. Now, Sam has been in the news for all the wrong reasons from, I think, 2019 elections. I don't know who coined it, but he's considered to be the mentor of Rahul Gandhi. Tell us a little bit about how much you know Sam Pitroda, and is he really the mentor of Rahul Gandhi? Because somewhere along the line, whatever he says blows up in a big way against the Congress party.
So I met Sam Pitroda during the Indira Gandhi era, way back. When I used to visit India, I was in telecom, and Sam Pitroda was somebody very close to the telecom authorities, and he was the founder of CDOT, Center for whatever development of technology, something like that. And they were making switches. They were making switches so that India would not depend on foreign switches because they were very expensive. And if you wanted to modernize your telecom network, you needed switches made in India. So it was a nice program. The C-dot switch did not in the end get the market share. We ended up buying foreign switches anyway. But I think it was a good heroic attempt, and it produced technology, and it produced confidence that Indians can do these things. I got to know Sam Pitroda in that way. And I respected him. I appreciated him. He was not political at the time. He was just a technocrat who wanted to come and help in his country. In fact, he wanted to recruit me too into one of those things. But for whatever reason, I had a fantastic career in the US, so I didn't go for it. So that's the Sam Pitroda I knew. And then I later found out that he was very close to Rajiv Gandhi, not Rahul Gandhi, but Rajiv Gandhi. He and Rajiv Gandhi were classmates long ago, or so I was told. And he felt he knew Rajiv knew him, and they were really like pals. And so he was sort of Rajiv Gandhi's chief technocrat, advisor, or whatever you want to call it. And he had a lot of power during the brief, Rajiv Gandhi regime. And he'd taken Indian citizenship. He'd moved from the US, gone back and done that. And I think after Rajiv Gandhi left, he stayed for a while to work with Sonia Gandhi, and he was to raise and nurture Rahul Gandhi as sort of a father figure Okay. And but then he realized, for political reasons or whatever, I guess political reasons, that it wasn't appropriate for him to stay in India. So he went back to US. I think he was in the Chicago area. At least when I knew him, he was in the Chicago area. I used to speak to him like 25 years or more ago. I haven't spoken to him in at least 2 decades. So that's what I know of him personally. And the rest, after that, I've known whatever you know in the media. The fact that he's considered Rahul Gandhi's mentor is not a surprise, and it's probably true because he was very close to one of the closest friends of Rahul Gandhi. And after
Rajiv.
Rahul Gandhi, an advisor to Sonia Gandhi. So it's very natural that he would be a trusted kind of a family member, extended family member in a sense, or a family friend, you should say, and hence the person kind of grooming Rahul Gandhi.
Well, the challenge is that some of the things he makes statement, like even today, it's really blowing up the internet in India about describing people in the East with a certain way and so on and so forth. If you really parse the thing, there may be some, I don't know, some similarities, but the way he put it out, I think somewhere there is some disconnect. But Rajiv, let's get back to the Ivy League schools.
So
October 7th,
Sam, yeah. I think a number of I know him through his tweets and all that, and he doesn't make sense. He's an angry person. I think it's sour grapes is my feeling, that he had a good thing going. He was part of the establishment during the days of the Congress, and he was sort of the person looked upon for great ideas in all kind of fields, not just technology. And I think he's sour grapes because he's out of nobody cares about him, and that's my guess, is that he's just angry because he's a nobody.
Thank you, sir. Let's take a look at what happened after October 7th. You had protests in Harvard right after that. I think within 3 or 4 days. That's when they tried to whitewash this whole thing and say, what about the Palestinians? What about the Palestinian rights? Right? And then there was a letter that was signed by like 100 plus organizations, student bodies in Harvard. They all said that, there was a letter. And then what happened was Bill Ackman was the first one to again say that this is BS. And there was a truck that went around the campus, putting the names of these people in sequence. Slowly it was mentioning all the names. A lot of Indian American, Hindus, American kids, at least Hindu sounding names also there. Immediately, 3 or 4 firms, legal firms, because this had to do with law offer letters that they had given, letters of employment. Upon graduation, they were going to go into these places. They all rescinded their offers.
Right.
What I'm trying to set the stage here is, it's not too far ago that they don't remember. These children that are doing it now, 3, 4, 5 months ago, this happened to some of their own for doing something like this. What are these Ivy League children? Because Brown is in the thick of it, Columbia is in the thick of it, Harvard is in the thick of it, Yale is in the thick of it. There are only 4 left. And I'm sure UPenn is probably also considered Ivy League. So 5 of them are already in the thick of it. So tell me something. These are the best and brightest that the United States has got. How is it that collectively they are actually acting like abysmal fools, sir?
So, this thing is now in 40 campuses. And the pattern is identical, so it's orchestrated. It is not like an individual student doing this. If you look at the tents, there is a bulk purchase. Somebody bought a whole lot of them. And Fox has an analysis of this. Some Wall Street Journal did an analysis of this. Rockefeller Brothers Foundation is behind it. Open Source Society of Soros is behind it. A few people like that have given money indirectly to some cause of Palestine somewhere, to some cause of human rights somewhere, some African-American cause, and those guys have funneled it to others. And eventually this money is used for all the propaganda toolkits. The term toolkits, Indians discovered during this dismantle Hindutva movement a few years ago, that there is this toolkit, which was a big PDF telling you how you do this and what you should do, what are the slogans, and don't do this and do that. So like a training manual, it was distributed widely. We have a copy of it. You have a copy, I'm sure. So there is this toolkit also for this. They've taken a master toolkit, a template, and for student activism and for other troublemakers, and then they adapt it for each cause. So if there's a thing like this for Khalistan, which I'm sure there will be one day, and a thing like this for Kashmir and all, which I'm sure there will be one day, it's not going to take them more than 24 hours to adapt the toolkit and just spread it like, make it viral, and get hundreds of organizations, the same organizations that many of the organizations and activists that went for Black Lives Matter movement, they went for this one, that one, they're here. So it's a very syndicated, orchestrated, organized, ultra left wing revolution. You have to look at it that way.
Sir, the other interesting thing, I'm just trying to stretch this thing a little bit outside, we should go to lawmakers and say, like, for example, you are elected representative, and write to them saying that you are very concerned about these things. The first thing they look at is individuals don't matter, organizations matter. So if you are part of an organization, we would like you to write on that. Taking this as an advantage, you have a lot of letterpad organizations today. All these, I call them alphabet soup, because they all come from the same group of 5 or 6 people. They keep mushrooming. Every time one is exposed, that kind of dies down, another one takes its place, and then the thing goes on. Why is the lawmaker in the United States also, completely blind? I mean, how many people have to go and tell them that, look, I have a full-time job, but I'm concerned about what my child is being taught in the school. I assume that by putting my child in the school, that I'm going to get some good education. I've been told that the schools impart good education. And now you are bringing in all these sneaking in things like critical race theory. There's some other stuff, outrageous stuff in the East Coast. Rajivji, I'm sure you are aware of it. Asra Nomani has been writing about this, because nobody else has taken the pains to go into the thing, see how offensive the stuff is. Now, question to you, sir, is why is it that the lawmaker in United States, whether it is Congress or even at the state level, even at the city council level, they have all been infiltrated and been told a certain earful. The other side.
This is the victory of the progressive left in the Democratic Party. The Bernie Sanders and this Pramila Jayapal and this Omar, all these kind of lunatic fringe have prevailed, become exceedingly powerful. Okay, and so if you want any career in the, there are 3 or 4, 5 Indians also. Among them, there is one fellow. He's the only one who speaks out loudly. Not Raja Krishnamurthy. He does also. But
you're talking about Sree Thanedar.
Yeah, Thanedar. Thanedar is the only guy who just doesn't take care and he talks like that. And I guess enough of our community are supporting him to give him that confidence. But this fellow Ro Khanna is sold out, or he's almost as bad as Pramila Jayapal, but a more polished version. He can talk both sides. So our people in India are infiltrated. The problem is not, what you have not touched upon is the infiltration of the establishment in India. And I'm talking about the BJP establishment. I'm talking about Niti Aayog. I'm talking about the various ministries there. And this is what I'm going to bring out in my next book. We are going to talk about the way, and we're going to name names, and we're going to tell you all the kind of details. It's not just billionaires funding Harvard. That was true in Breaking India 2.0. We're now talking about Breaking India 3.0, where a whole lot of this has reached inside India in places you would not suspect. So that's how bad the cancer has spread. The absolutely outrageous statement when we were fighting SB 403 in California, right? So some of the lawmakers were told, listen, this is on the face of it wrong. And there have been a court order saying that the case of Cisco, is wrong. And they have actually freed the 2 main people that were being accused of this. So basically, the court has already ruled against this. Why do you keep, pushing this and wanting to vote for this? You know what the lawmaker said, Rajivji? We make laws. We don't care about what the judiciary thinks about a subject. As stupid as that. Not only that, 1-on-1, 5-on-1, 10-on-1. That's all the maximum crowd Indian Americans can muster. Because, like I said, everybody has data and jobs. They go and talk to these lawmakers. And I'm telling every lawmaker, not just Democrat, also Republican, except for a handful of Republicans, everybody went along with SB 403 and this is a good thing. What I'm trying to say is these people don't seem to want to understand
what exactly is the truth. They're not looking for the truth. They are looking for how many people came and talked to me. So the other side has full-time protesters.
So what
I'm
you're
not
learning
ranting here. I'm just telling the facts.
No, but this is a very old theory on the what is knowledge, how it's constructed. It's a social construct. It's a political construct. Marxists have known this for a very long time. The word propaganda was part of the Vatican. There was a propaganda minister at one point in time whose job was to spread propaganda, and then the Marxists took that word as a very dignified, important thing, that you have to spread propaganda in order to spread Marxism. And propaganda has all these rules, tricks and all that, how you do it, how you hijack the other side, and who are the influencers the gatekeepers, and then you cancel them. That whole game is like any other game. It's like how you get market share in the knowledge and information. It's not about truth. So you are wrong when you think that our people are naive, thinking that there is education is about the quest for truth, and you are dealing with people who are really interested in truth, and I'll win the argument based on logic and based on merit. Bullshit. That doesn't matter. It is a political knowledge is a political construct, is the way the reality is today. So you have to wear your political hat in fighting and debating these people. It's not a fight of from a philosophical merit point of view and giving them high integrity data and all that. It's not true. That's not how it works. So you need to know what are the political levers that are working on them, not logic. And then how do we create counter levers? You have to do that. So if the counter levers require funding sources like Mahindra and Mittal to be on our side, which they are not, how do we get them on our side? How do we put pressure on these guys, billionaires, Indian billionaires, to stop doing what the hell they're doing? Is it public pressure? Is it government pressure? Is it litigation? What the hell will it take? So, we have to keep going back to see where we can. Do we get gurus involved? I mean, where is our power? Where do we have traction on the ground where we can say, okay, this is where we start, and then that's the first battle, then the next battle. We have to create that kind of a strategy for ourselves, which we haven't done, because there are too many of our people who are wanting to become sudden influencers, go around talking this, that, but behind willing to put in hard work. They just want limelight, and there's a lot of that. And our foolish public gives so much credibility and so much importance to those who are getting market share and limelight, and not giving enough importance to people who are willing to do and actually doing the hard work, digging deep, digging up research and producing arguments that can work. So we are also disorganized amongst ourselves, is the point I'm making. And that's you should not be surprised that the other side is winning, and we are not, because that's the problem we've had: the lack of unity and lack of integrity in our creating our own movement.
I think let's wind it up, because a few questions are there for you, Rajiv ji, from our viewers.
Let's take on questions.
Yeah, because I want to just leave one positive note. There are things that we all can do. I mean, sending an email to your congressman or a senator does not cost you a lot of time. In fact, almost everything you have a template. You shouldn't worry that, oh, my name is going to be mentioned. They want to know you are real or not. Otherwise, bots will be flooding their mailbox. So you should understand that. I don't think there is anything wrong in expressing your concern for the future of your children. I'm just telling all the viewers who are watching, please at least engage yourself at the school council levels, as well as city council levels and things like that. Sir, let's take a few questions, Rajiv ji. You write books, I write books, but people don't read books.
So it's not meant for those people. The books I write are meant for other scholars. My books are usually not of much interest to the general public. They're not well read. They're not educated enough to read. They basically read a blog here and there. They cannot read hundreds of pages. But I'm writing serious arguments for people I'm training who need to know all the details in order to be able to take their argument further. So the knowledge, the knowledgeable people in a society have always been very few. I mean, how many people read Einstein's theory of relativity or anything for that matter, any research paper, whether it's medicine, whether it's whatever the field is? Very, very few people who are subject matter experts are even interested. Very few people have read philosophy. Very few people have read any kind of serious thought. But the point, very few people read Marxism, by the way, for at least 50 years after Marx. Very few people read Marxism. But it had that appeal intellectual appeal for those who took those books, Das Kapital and the various other books, and read them. It had the appeal because it made so much sense to them that they kept going, and each one of them expanded it, brought more people into it. So one generation after another, these things expanded. So what we are trying to do from our side as Infinity Foundation is create our own school of thought. That's our goal. We are creating, and we are on our way. We haven't published it yet, but we are going to put out a very elaborate school of thought that can be taught, that can be part of a curriculum, that gurus can teach, that private universities can teach, that online courses can be done. We are developing that, and this will be a very wide, comprehensive school of thought, which will bring together all the stuff that we've done and a lot more. And so our goal is to train enough people to keep it going into the next generation. We are not doing at the retail level, trying to sensationalize and get 10 million views right away. I don't want to do that. Enough other people are doing it. But let me tell you this regarding the books. The books I wrote produce people like you, produce people like Vivek Agnihotri, produce people like all these guys, Sanjay Dikshit, you name it, all these guys, Mehra, what's his name?
Kushal Mehra.
Kushal Mehra, nice guy. All these guys, Sham Sharma, they all tell me, at least privately, many of them even publicly. Shefali Vaidya came to me and said, I have to tell you, at this World Hindu Congress, he said, I didn't know anything about these until I heard you at the Dallas Temple many years ago. And when I heard 2-3 nights in a row I was speaking, and he was involved in the Q&A, after that I decided I'm going to get into this. So it has produced all of these people and a whole lot more. And we are going to celebrate. I just want people to know we are celebrating the 30th anniversary of Infinity Foundation in about April next year, April 2025. And all of you are invited. We're going to have a few thousand people in Princeton, New Jersey, and a lot of speakers. And we're going to have a full day of describing all our accomplishments, what impact we have made, not just talk, but actual things that have changed, policies that have changed. We have little books on each area of impact we've made, about 8 or 9 areas of big impact we've made. And then there'll be an evening of celebration. So people can come and we'll be telling our 30-year story.
Wonderful, sir. That's a very commendable effort to walk away from a very lucrative career and take this decision. Amazing. I tip my hat to you, because I know you are absolutely right. You are one of the people that inspired me to do what I did.
So let me give people 2-3 examples. I mean, really, we have many more to give. Had it not been for my book, The Battle for Sanskrit, Sringeri Mutt had signed an MOU with Columbia University to turn over the legacy of Adi Shankara to Sheldon Pollock. Now, what could be worse than that? I mean, that's like taking over, if the Muslims were to take over the Vatican. I mean, it's as ridiculous as that. And the CEO, the administrative head of Sringeri Mutt, Gauri Shankar, personally had signed, because it was going to be big for him. They were putting him on advisory board, and they were entertaining him. And the Indian, very wealthy people on Wall Street were the ones who funded it. And they were going to set up these chairs all over the US, Adi Shankara chairs, under the control of Sheldon Pollock. So I had to go sneak around and go, and this is all written in the book, Battle for Sanskrit, and managed to get in through the side entrances and all that to meet the Shankaracharya himself and plead the case that Adi Shankara is known for Purva Paksha. So we have to do Purva Paksha of Sheldon Pollock. Have you done it? And he said no. And has your Gauri Shankar, the administrative head, done it? He didn't have done it. So if you haven't done Purva Paksha of a certain person, how can you go and turn over the whole legacy of your tradition to such a person? I mean, he was so astounded that I'm a non-entity coming there and making this case. The way I said, it's exactly like Adi Shankara was a young man, a nobody, who went to all the top people and challenged them and said, I have done Purva Paksha, let's have a debate. So I have come here for that. And you give me a few months and I'm going to produce this book. And in that, I will explain to you what is wrong with those people and why you should not do the turn over the whole legacy of Adi Shankara to these people, because they're totally nonsense. They are going to make a mockery out of your tradition and kill it, and you're handing it to the enemy. So he was so impressed, he told Adi Shankar, we're going to wait until this book comes out. And the deal was killed. The deal was killed. So I feel that, what do you mean I have not made an impact through my books? That whole one book, if all it did was kill the Columbia University attempt to hijack Adi Shankara, that is enough for a whole lifetime of achievement. Do you understand?
Very true.
Okay, so I'll give you one more example, because we have so many. I don't want to take your time, but we will put it out. So then there was this FCRA. When I wrote this Breaking India book, I criticized these missionaries, the foreign FCRAs, the leftists, all that. We made a big deal of this foreign funded NGOs. That was one of the big things in this book, Breaking India, as you remember. So Madhu Kishwar said, why don't we go public? And so she organized a series of events in Delhi, where we brought in India International Center. We have videos on that. We brought in opponents. And I went to JNU and had a bunch of talks. We have videos of that also. And this became a very big thing. And then based on that, there were petitions saying, this foreign funding should be controlled. It took several years of lobbying before some bills were passed and the government clamped down on foreign funding of NGOs. That is an accomplishment we achieved. So I could go on and tell you a lot of things we have done in the last 30 years. People may not think of it that way, because they think maybe this guy just comes and talks on TV or a video or something. But actually, the research work we have done has been targeted. Now, even snakes in the Ganga. Lakshmi Mittal's institute in Harvard is no longer rabidly woke. Why? And Mahindra is too proud to say so, that he's being affected. But he is being affected, according to people I know. Quietly. Message has gone to his people in Harvard, don't go so much Hindu-phobic. Tune it down. So it has an effect. Sometimes it's private because people have so much pride. You can't publicly insult them. You can't say, hey, listen, I won and you lost. You can't say it that way. You have to say it under the radar, quietly, through other people also, and they get the message. And do you know, we had a full chapter on Omidyar, the Omidyar network. That was worse than we called it. This is George Soros 2.0. And do you know, several months ago, Omidyar shut down for new funding in India and got out. You know that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mysteriously, unknown forces convinced Omidyar that, whatever you already have, fine, but don't invest more. He got out. So why did that happen? How all of a sudden it happened? So obviously there is influence. And some of the influence we don't talk about publicly.
Wonderful, sir. I know exactly what you're saying, and I tip my hat to you for all the amazing stuff you're done and you're continuing to do. The books are, like you said, these are very, very serious written stuff. And like you said, I think one time in Snakes in the Ganga, don't read the entire book, read one chapter. And that will give you a lot of information, because sometimes you need to deep dive into one topic. Use that. Viewers, you need to read some of these books, even if it is heavy going, because otherwise what happens is, by not showing up for debates, you are basically ceding. And no point in trying to get angry in the confines of your room. This needs to come out. Why am I wearing vibhuti? And sir, the interesting story that I will tell you, Rajiv ji. People ask me, do you wear vibhuti when you step out of the house? What a question. I wear it. See, vibhuti is worn in first thing in the morning, and then it wears off with time. You sweat and whatever. But I'm not going to take it off. Anyway, it's a very interesting things. The way we go about facing some of these questions. Also, I'm hoping that somewhere we are making a difference. I know you are making a difference. I'm still, mine is jury still out. Thank you so much. Let's take a few questions. Chaitanya Takle wants to know, why are American Jews left-leaning? Not all.
So this is a mysterious problem. Like a lot of the educated Tamil Brahmins are left-leaning. They are anti-Brahmin.
Yes.
Yes. The same problem. Self-hating kind of guilt. So this is the same thing. Why are so many British people have started supporting the extreme leftist fringe in the Labour Party? The guy who recently resigned was the head of government in Scotland. and now the Labour guy is is Muslim Pakistani. That was a Pakistani Muslim. Now this Pakistani Muslim has got the third term as mayor of London, and he's trying to become the next prime minister if they were to beat the Conservatives. So you wonder. So it's a guilt against in Britain. It's a guilt against the former colonies. Like in the United States, the white guilt against blacks. In England, it's against South Asians. So mostly the Pakistanis have took advantage. Indians decided that we'll get money, we'll invest and make money in a normal way and get into technology and into those kind of fields. And Indians did well there. Pakistanis didn't do that well there. They got into the politics and so on. So the guilt, the white guilt is being used there. The white guilt in the United States is being used here. So the Jews have their own kind of a guilt part of it, and I think there's a lot of genuine. I'm a sympathizer with the Palestine cause because I think they've had a bad deal and they need a better deal. But the problem is that they haven't got responsible leaders. They've got irresponsible leaders, and they've got too many forces, too many radical Islamic forces that have taken over the politics. But the average guy who's suffering, we have our heart should go out to them because they are human beings who have suffered. So a lot of Jews are feeling that kind of a pain on behalf of for the Palestinians, and so they are pro-Palestine. A lot of the pro-Palestine movement in the United States is actually Jews. And so part of it is guilt, part of it is genuine concern. Part of it is just sort of self-hatred. So there's a lot of reasons like that.
Next question, please. Sundar Kidambi wants to know, all your predictions from the snakes and the Ganges turned out to be true. When will our politicians, policymakers see the writing on the wall?
So, that's the question I've been asking. I keep doing my job and I keep briefing everybody. It's out in the open. There's nothing secret. I'm very loud, open, very prolific, and so people know what it is. I give away good books. I invite them and have talks and give away free books. I mean, I do all the evangelism I can of the research output, and it's for people to decide. Slowly, it does get in. Slowly, as I mentioned about the FCRA, it got in and so on. And I know there are people who are also concerned about the billionaires. The vice president referred to our book in a Hindi talk and also in an English talk, and he said that I'm very disappointed to read here that some of our billionaires are funding the anti-India forces at Harvard. He said that. So it is reaching people, and it gradually then formulates policy. Then, I met, Jaishankar last year when I was there. So, and his assistants and all the Indian Foreign Service people, and they asked me to, 2-3 times I've spoken to the diplomats at the Foreign Service Institute where they train them. So, this knowledge percolates slowly. And then it morphs and modulates in many different ways as it percolates. But not all of it gets across. Some of it is controversial. Some of it is not easy to implement. They don't want to go after the Indian billionaires too much because they get funding from them. The billionaires fund a lot of election campaigns. So they don't want to go and embarrass them, But the billionaires do get the message that this is going on and it is not good for your image. Public, I want to thank, because the public has really supported and gone after these billionaires who are Hindu-phobic and funding Harvard. That happened. And so even in the case of criticizing the Sringeri Mutt, when I wrote about this Sheldon Pollock trying to take over the Sringeri Mutt, Adi Shankara and all that, the public supported me. The Sanskrit scholars supported me. A few got very defensive, but most people supported me. And that put pressure. And so policies were changed. That's how it happens. My job is to bring out scholarship. And your job as the public is to read it, understand it, and take it forward and write petitions and popularize it. And once enough people are reading and talking about this, and we have created a whole vocabulary, there's about 50 words that we have coined or popularized, and that are now part of circulation. People are talking about these things. That is how the influence spreads. One of the books we are going to put out for our 30th anniversary is the vocabulary, a summary of all the vocabulary we've created and all the concepts and frameworks and theories that we've created, and in a book, so that you can get the gist of intellectual contributions we've made.
Thank you, sir. Next question, please. Cargo Crew wants to know, do you think that Islam is the perfect tool to control people, and for that reason the powers that be will never allow Islam to die?
Yeah, I think this is a very important question. I wouldn't say perfect, but I would say the most powerful tool known today, the most powerful tool existing today to brainwash people into compliance, obedience, conformity, everybody's uniform, thinking one way, and basically following instructions. That sort of obedience oriented regimentation, like a military, it's like a military manual on how to control the world. And they've done a very good job of bringing all kind of people from all the cultures and languages and different parts of the world, different races together under this concept that we are all one, and wherever you are from is less important, and your country is less important, and all that, because you're ultimately a Muslim. And so this business of we are taking over the world and we are winning. So the pride when you go to some Muslim group rally is that, hey, you can have all the logic you want. It's all nonsense. We can give you arguments in return if you want, but you don't even matter, because we're going to win anyway. So that is a kind of unbeatable movement in that particular sense that they've created. And I think there's a lot you can learn from the human dynamics, teamwork, group dynamics. What you can learn from that in order to implement these things.
Next question, please. Uchu wants to know, will West passively accept Islam?
Well, West is passively accepting Islam until now. But America has a history of hitting back and reinventing itself. And, there was a 60s revolution, all this new age and all the drug culture and all the Vietnam War, and the left was very strong. And, people thought that the United States is going to come to an end. But America is a very resilient nation with a lot of depth and a lot of power and a lot of energy. And don't write off America. Betting against America is a bad idea. I wouldn't bet against America no matter what's going on. So I think that Americans have the tenacity to come back. All it would take is one sweeping election in a certain direction, and you could see huge changes that come back. But right now, things are drifting in the wrong direction. You're absolutely right.
Rajivji, I have to tell you, before we go to the next question, the majority in many of these universities are seething right now because a few motley lumpen have really gave them tarnished the entire lot with what has been happening, taking over campuses and things like that. So I think that fury is going to find its expression, hopefully, in this election, because they are saying that you're going to get a surprise result. Let's see how this thing manifests itself, sir. Next question, please. Ashnar wants to know, why is there no prominent Islamic reformer from the West reforming the religion?
There is no prominent Islamic reformer anywhere. West, East, inside Islam, outside Islam, nobody. Because Islam is so resilient to fighting any dissent, and they'll just eradicate these people. Infinity Foundation has supported some women's groups, Muslim women's groups, that I don't want to name, but we've supported them. We've done some videos with them also. There is one, Yasmin Malhotra, Yasmin Muhammad. She's between France and Canada. She moves around. There are people like that, several people like that. Asra Nomani is another well-known, but we've got some other people also. And they all tell me that the people who join them risk for their lives. They are afraid. The women who want to come out because they're being abused, they are not able to come out very openly. So they have these networks of secretly, women helping other women in these kind of situations. So the Reformation, which would be an intellectual reformation to reinterpret the Hadith and the Sharia and the Quran, you're supposed to be killed and exterminated if you defy the finality of the texts, holy texts, and if you try to amend them or try to defy them, it means you're insulting the Prophet or something like that. So they have enough built-in threats and protection mechanisms to prevent that from happening. So it will be a painful process. Now, I'll tell you where I think there is hope. Saudi Arabia seems to be changing, and also UAE. And these are genuine. I'm going to go there. I've been invited to go and see all this for myself. It's not just they got a Hindu temple and so on, but the Saudi crown prince is very concerned about the future of his country becoming so Islamized. He wants to de-Islamize, de-radicalize. So they've now they have people, women are participating in beauty pageants. Wow, unheard of. I mean, they've allowed them all kinds of freedom. So my feeling is the reformation of Islam has to be in the form of a kind of a liberation of women. I think that since half the population is women, and they are the ones who are most oppressed, and they're educated type people, they want to be free, and they want to express themselves and live like normal people. So you have to somehow empower women, and that is the secret. If you can empower women and give them importance and give them important positions politically, and not have them become a puppet that with somebody else pulling the strings from behind, that is what will bring about change. So Pakistan missed the opportunity, because Pakistan could have become a leader of the new kind of liberated and liberal free Islamic world, being the largest Islamic or second largest Islamic country population wise, and highly educated, just like the rest of India. They had all the strengths of India. They could have developed a tech industry. They could have developed based on education and modernity, and not this bullshit about turning over everything to the madrasas and the Taliban and running themselves to the ground. They had that opportunity, and that would have been true leadership of the Islamic world to bring about a new, modern, liberated Islam, rather than trying to build nuclear bombs and do all those things and breeding ground of terrorists. But they blew it, and I think for them it's too late. Saudi Arabia is taking this role. At one point, Iran was hopeful. There was a liberation going on in Iran during the Shah's time. The women were you have to see the women in the Muslim countries as a barometer of what's happening in society. You have to do that. And during the Shah's time, the women were very, very open, free, modern. And then something happened. The United States made a stupid mistake, thinking that the Shah is not good for human rights of people. The left convinced people like Jimmy Carter, that we should clip his hands, clip his wings, and this Shah is too powerful. So the Shah was deposed, and the people who came in power were not the left-wing liberals and democratic people. The people who came in power were the Ayatollah. And now we have what we have because America deposed of the Shah. Okay, now same. So America is the one that deposed of Saddam Hussein. He was a great American ally, Again, this business that he's bad for human rights of his local people, but his argument was that he's keeping control of the radicals, the bad guys, and he has to do terrible things to keep them under control. But that's what it takes over there. So he was fighting the tough fight there. So we got rid of him also, like the Shah of Iran. We got rid of him also, and look where things went. So the lesson to be learned is, I think for all the problems that the Crown Prince has in Saudi Arabia, all the human rights problems, and he killed some Washington Post journalist, fine, he might have done it. But I think if you look for the larger good, having a guy like that champion Saudi Arabia and transform it into a post-Islamic society, He has not used this word. I'm using that word. I'm not even saying he will make it post-Islamic, but he might reform Islam to remove all the nonsense. And maybe he will even remove the restriction that Kaaba in Makkah, no non-Muslims can visit. Maybe Muslims will be able to visit. Maybe it will become a free society in that sense also. So he's going very fast. He's a young guy and he wants to make so maybe he wants, I don't know, I haven't met him, but I don't know whether his vision is to create a kind of reformed Islam, but it seems like he might be. And so that could be a very big silver lining, a big hope if that is the case.
Next question, please. Sir, you have some time, right? We are about 1 hour and 4 minutes into the program.
So can we wrap up in 5 to 10 minutes because I have another appointment?
Yes, sir. Just 1 minute per question, so that will do it.
Yeah.
BS wants to know, how can more and more Indian Americans be motivated to run for office and represent the 4 million of us? Maybe more voices of ours need to be heard.
Well, you have to do the normal thing that others do. You have to first build a constituency, and you have to realize whether the Indians are enough in number to comprise a viable constituency, or whether we need to bring in the mainstream people. And so this requires oratory, meritocracy, all kind of things. So that's the political process. I don't have experience as a politician, so I will not be able to give you authoritative advice based on what worked for me. I have experience in other areas, but not in politics. I do want others to join and become successful for sure.
Partha wants to know, are we left with no option but to go into Sanskrit or mainstreaming local languages to insulate ourselves from further interventions? Many are also thinking what a modern Gurukul would look like.
So we are developing a school of thought with this kind of a thing, and it will be developed primarily in English and then translated, brought in other languages. I think that you have to be able to conduct this knowledge in whatever the languages are that people are using, which includes English. And you have to be able to get the English elite on your side. You cannot say that we will be a cocoon in a bubble with Sanskrit speaking people in a Gurukul and a Pathshala somewhere, and we don't want to. You may create good yogis and rishis, but not good Kshatriyas. If you want to create yogis and rishis, yeah, you can do that. You don't need to worry about the rest of the world and just worry about yourself. But if you are a Kshatriya, you have to worry about the rest of the world, and you have to communicate in ways that people will understand.
Anil Kumar Acharya wants to know, is the topic language and gender equality a woke idea?
Language is a separate thing altogether. Language is nothing to do with, language is not woke. I mean, they're not championing for any language. Gender identity is also, gender equality is not a woke idea, because the old feminism, the classical feminism, wanted equality for women and men. They did not ever say that there is no such thing as a woman. Any man can, by birth, sex man, can say he's a trans and walk into a women's restroom. So that woke business of blurring the boundaries is fluid. It's called gender fluidity. It's not the same thing as gender equality. Gender equality, feminism says there are men and there are women, and men are men, women are women, but they should be equal. It's not like that they have to women have to become like men. It's not like that. So the feminists have worked very hard for several generations to get a lot of progress for equality for women, and now they feel that the floor has been slipped from under their feet, because the trans movement says there is no such thing as women. You know, guys can say, I happen to feel like a woman today, and he can get into women's sports and win all the medals. So the woke movement has actually subverted the feminist movement.
Next one, please. Pranay Kumar wants to know, the enemy wins the debate, they change policy to their advantage. If we win debate, there is just defense and no profit. How many people want to work for society for free?
Well, I don't know. I think it's not a very clearly phrased question.
Yeah.
But what you're talking about is how do we, how in a world where there is cancel culture, how do we get involved and have our voice? Well, that's a problem we've been facing for a long time. So what we do is we create alternate channels. They won't let me speak in their forum, but I'll create my own forum. I write a book. That's why I write a book. I write a book where I name names. And they have to understand, because other people are talking about this book and talking about them behind their back, because they're not letting us come and participate. So it puts pressure on them, and gradually things change. I gave a few examples.
Last question, sir. Thank you, Sriyan Shukla. When will Mandir ecosystem economic model implementation start, as suggested by Dr. Ankit Shah?
I don't know about his model, and so I wouldn't like to comment on it. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with his model.
That brings us to a close of what I would call one of the best sessions I've had this year. Rajivji, you're truly an intellectual. The ways in which you're forcing people to think. Viewers, you may want to watch it more than once, because there is so much information packed in this. Sir, thank you once again, and look forward to having you again very, very shortly.
Thank you, Sree. You know, I just want people to know that you're one of my favorite interviewers, because you are a tech guy, very intelligent guy, similar background to me, and you are into this with a passion. You're genuine. You're not looking for some big career ambition, this or that for yourself. And people should support P Gurus, and all the best to you. And let's continue this conversation. Namaste, everybody.
Thank you so much, sir.